Hi plant friends! You don't have to spend a lot of time in the plant world before you start to notice that there's a lot of conflicting information circulating around. You know, I'm a bit of a questioner by nature, and so I always like to know the why behind what I'm being told. And the truth is, a lot of the information that is being circulated is based on anecdotal evidence, or perhaps even worse, just information that's passed down from one person to another. And very little of it is actually based in science. So today I'm going to bust 5 myths that I have frequently seen circulated. One of the things that we are often told is that tropical plants love humidity. And that's common sense, right? Tropical plants come from the tropics, and therefore it would be expected that they would appreciate a humid environment. One of the ways that we're often encouraged to increase the humidity around our plants is by misting. I'm just going to bust that one right out the window. Misting has not been shown to substantially increase the humidity around your plants. Sure, there's a temporary effect. If I mist my plant, then for a short period of time, the humidity level will be raised. But if you just watch, as soon as the droplets dry, the humidity is right back where you started. And it can actually be harmful because you can be encouraging fungal diseases and pests. If you want to mist your plants, it's probably fine, but if you're doing it to increase the humidity for your plants, not helpful. Now, there are certain times at which it is beneficial to mist plants, because every rule has to be broken. So certain plants, ferns for instance, do appreciate a moist environment, and so they like being misted. I don't tend to keep ferns around in my collection because I live up in the mountains and it's very dry here. Another instance in which it is helpful to mist your plants is when a plant is trying to unfurl a leaf and it appears to be stuck. Misting it can help provide a little bit more moisture, and then it will unravel more easily. So I've got my big bird of paradise back here, and he has been trying to release this leaf for a long time. So every day or so, I go and give him a little mist, a little increase in moisture level. So as far as misting goes, if you're doing it to increase the humidity level for your plants, no. Myth busted. Myth number 2. When leaves on a plant turn yellow or fall off, it means you are doing something wrong. Not true necessarily. Leaves serve a purpose to the plant, and when that purpose has been served, the plant removes the sugars and the nutrients from the leaf so that the leaf starts to turn yellow and eventually drops off. It's natural. Leaves don't last forever. That's just a part of the life cycle. Yellowing or dropping leaves can be a signal that there is a problem in the environment or the care that the plant is given. And what you need to do is pay attention to where the leaf is that is dropping. So if the leaf is at the bottom of the plant, it's one of the larger or older leaves, then it's very likely just the life cycle happening. If the leaf is higher up or it's a large number of leaves, then you need to look at your care practices. But does a yellow leaf or a leaf that has fallen off mean you're doing something wrong? Not necessarily. Myth busted. Myth number 3. Low light plants. We often see plants that are labeled or described as low light. So we think that that plant will survive pushed over in a corner or in a windowless office. Let's go back to basic botany for this one. Plants use the energy in sunlight to create the nutrients that they need. Sunlight means food for the plant. Now, it's true, some plants are able to survive in a lower light atmosphere. Very, 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 very few plants thrive in a low light atmosphere. That being said, you can put a plant in a low light atmosphere, a plant that is labeled low light or purported to be low light tolerant, and it'll do fine for a while, but really it's just on a slow death march. So when we describe a plant as being low light tolerant, it means for a time they can live in a low light atmosphere. The great majority of plants are going to do so much better and be so much happier if they are exposed to medium to bright indirect light. It's ubiquitous because it's true. So low light plants, myth, kind of busted too. Myth number 4. Plants purify the air. This is a big one. We see this everywhere. Okay, this is where that myth got started. In 1989, NASA did a study, and in certain lab conditions, plants were found to remove certain chemicals from the air. All of that certainty and specificity of the conditions of the study are swept away, and the grand statement has been properly promoted in the plant world that plants purify. That was a lot of peas. If we really dig back into the science of it, we will know that this was in very specific conditions. First of all, it was in a very small space, and for a normal house, maybe a 1,500 square foot house, you would need almost 400 plants. That's a lot of plants. And it's not even widely known the pollutants that were actually cleared from the air in the study. It may not even be what we're dealing with in our own homes. This is certainly a case where science was done, but then it was taken to such a broad extent that now it's just widely believed to be true. So do plants clear the air? Well, probably yes. Are we able to recreate that situation in our own homes? Probably not. Myth busted. Myth number 5. Coffee grounds make a great plant fertilizer. Now, every one of these myths is born of a tidbit of truth. And the tidbit here is that coffee grounds do contain nitrogen. And nitrogen is one of the main components of fertilizer that we put on our plants. Now, coffee grounds don't contain a lot of nitrogen. In fact, it's about 2% by volume. So definitely not on par with the fertilizers that we purchase. I've also seen it recommended to spread coffee grounds on the top of the plant so they can slowly make their way into the soil. Coffee grounds retain moisture, and the last thing you want to be doing on the top layer of your soil is retaining moisture. If you want an invitation for fungus gnats, that would be my top recommendation, and that is not what I'm interested in. What I would recommend instead you do with your coffee grounds is what I do with them, and that is to compost them. I put them in a compost pile, and then I can use the compost that's made at the end of that process and use that in my plant soil. So, coffee ground myth, busted. I had a hard time limiting myself to 5 myths to talk about today. If I missed any myths that you hear, or you're interested in wondering if it's a myth or a truth, drop a comment down below. I would love to do a little more research. Thanks as always for watching my video, and thank you so much for subscribing, for liking, for sharing. I appreciate all of the engagement that my sweet community gives to me. As always, my plant friends, let's keep growing together a greener world.